Maybe you've been feeling something strange lately. It's not something you can easily explain in words. It's a quiet, almost imperceptible sensation that something inside you is being reorganized. As if an invisible engineering were operating behind the scenes of your mind, your body, and even your energetic field. It's as if in certain moments you pause and think, I'm not the same anymore, but I don't yet know who I'm becoming. Science is beginning to understand this. Bruce Lipton reminds us that our cells respond directly to the environment we create within ourselves. This means that even before any change becomes visible in the material world, your body is already being reconfigured at a biological level. Small shifts in your perception change the chemistry flowing through your blood, alter the way your cells communicate, and this prepares the ground for a new reality to emerge. Joe Dispenza adds something fascinating. When your brain and heart enter coherence, you begin to emit an electromagnetic field so precise that reality itself reorganizes to match it. And this process is not slow and linear. Many times it happens in leaps. Suddenly you wake up at a different point in your inner journey with new ideas, new perceptions, and an energy that didn't exist before. The quantum leap, then, is not some external, mystical event that will one day knock on your door. It is an inner turning point. The moment when old programs, old beliefs, and old emotional responses begin to dissolve quietly. It's when you notice you no longer react the way you used to, no longer feel in the same way, and somehow what once seemed impossible now starts to feel natural. And maybe, without realizing it, you are already in this process right now. The evidence isn't only in great external transformations, but in the microsigns, a new patience where there once was irritation, a stronger intuition, an interest in things that never attracted you before. It's as if your consciousness were changing clothes, and each new piece were shaping your tomorrow. Today, I invite you to look inward and recognize the quantum leap is not something that will happen. It has already begun. And the more you tune into this movement, the faster the new will become your normal. Many people spend their whole lives waiting for something to happen out there, so they can finally feel that transformation has begun. It's as if change needed an external trigger, a new job, a relationship, an unexpected gain, or even a movie-like moment of revelation. But the truth is, the quantum leap doesn't work that way. It doesn't arrive as a package delivered to your door. It begins in the invisible, and often you only realize it when you're already in the middle of it. Bruce Lipton explains that the most powerful environment we are exposed to is not the physical one. It's the internal environment we create. Our cells, our chemistry, our nervous system all respond to the emotional and mental field we sustain every single day. If that field stays the same, life tends to repeat itself, even if the external scenery changes from time to time. The mistake is believing that an external event can sustain an internal change. Imagine you move to a new city but carry the same limiting beliefs and the same emotional pattern. In a short time, the new scenery loses its shine and the old feelings return. That's because it's not the environment that creates your internal state. It's your internal state that shapes how you live in that environment. Joe Dispenza reinforces this. When you internally generate the emotional and mental state that matches the reality you desire, the quantum field begins to respond. But as long as you live in waiting mode, waiting for proof before you believe, you're simply transmitting the signal that it hasn't happened yet. And the field reflects exactly that, more waiting. The quantum leap requires reversing this logic. It's not when I have, I will be. It's when I am, I will have. The new reality is not built outside and then brought into you. It is born within you and expands until it becomes visible in the external world. So the question is no longer, what do I need to change in my life to feel different? The question is, who do I need to decide to be right now so that my life changes? That decision is the key that opens the door between the timeline you live in today and the one you're ready to step into. The body is not just a physical structure that carries the mind and soul. It is a transmitter and receiver of frequencies. Every emotion you feel, every thought you repeat, sends a specific signal to the field around you. And like any antenna, it can only receive what it is tuned to. Bruce Lipton reminds us that cells have receptors capable of picking up not only chemical signals, but also emotional vibrations. This means that if you repeatedly feel emotions such as fear, anxiety, or frustration on a daily basis, you are literally shaping your body to receive more experiences that reinforce those states. Not as punishment, but as vibrational coherence. Joe Dispenza takes this idea further, saying that in order to change your reality, your body must learn to feel the future before it happens. If you desire more freedom, more love, more abundance, you must train your nervous system to experience now, in the present, the sensation of already living those qualities. The quantum field does not understand future and past the way we do. It responds to what is felt as true now. The problem is that many people try to change the mind without changing the body. They repeat positive affirmations but carry tension in their shoulders, shallow breathing, and a defensive posture. In that frequency, the body continues sending the message to the field, "I'm on alert, I'm still in the past," and the field responds accordingly. The practice begins with awareness. Ask yourself, what emotions dominate my body today? Anxiety, gratitude, calm, irritation? Notice not only the thought, but the internal chemistry it creates. Quickened heartbeat, stomach tension, relaxation, or constriction. The quantum leap requires that you become intentional in the way you inhabit your body. Breathe deeper. Adjust your posture to open your chest. Allow the body to feel lightness and trust before life gives you an external reason for it. In this state, you stop being a transmitter of old stories and become an antenna tuned to the reality you wish to live. Imagine trying to tune into a radio station, but with constant interference. You can catch part of the music, but the sound comes mixed with static and cutouts. That's how the quantum field hears your signal when your thoughts and emotions are misaligned. Every time you desire a new reality but keep feeding old worries, you're sending two conflicting signals. One says, "I want to move forward," and the other says, "It's not safe to change." This inner noise creates a kind of vibrational static that prevents the field from responding clearly. Joe Dispenza explains that coherence is the key. It's when the heart and the brain transmit the same emotional and mental state in alignment. Without coherence, energy scatters and manifestation becomes unstable or slow. The problem is that most people try to force mental clarity, while the body is still carrying the chemistry of fear, guilt, or anxiety. Noise also comes from contradictory emotional states. You might visualize a fulfilling life, but if you spend the day feeding scarcity thoughts, judging yourself, or replaying old wounds, you're constantly sabotaging the purity of your signal. Silencing this noise doesn't mean emptying the mind completely. It means reducing interference, clearing your transmission channels. A simple practice is conscious breathing. Close your eyes, inhale deeply to a count of 4, hold for 2 seconds, and exhale to a count of 6. This rhythm not only calms the nervous system, but also creates space for the heart and mind to enter coherence. When the noise fades, the field begins to reflect back the original clear frequency you are emitting. It's like cleaning a fogged lens. The landscape was always there, but now you see it sharply. Without inner static, the quantum leap doesn't just become possible, it becomes inevitable. The biggest trap when talking about a quantum leap is believing it depends on a grand moment, an event capable of changing everything at once. But reality is far more subtle, and also far more powerful. Transformation begins as an almost invisible sequence of small decisions, and these decisions slowly shape the ground for the leap to happen. Bruce Lipton reminds us that our emotional habits shape the body's chemistry. Every micro choice you make, how you react to a comment, how you start your day, how you decide to handle a challenge, is like a drop of water falling on a stone. At first, it seems harmless, but over time, that drop is capable of carving a new path. When you choose not to repeat a reactive pattern, for example, you are interrupting an old neural circuit and allowing the brain to create new connections. And this change, though small, begins to alter your vibrational signature. The quantum field responds to this new coherence, even if you don't yet see immediate external signs. These small choices also create a cascading effect. A single act of self-awareness can influence how you feel in the next hour, which in turn affects the way you speak to someone. and without you realizing it, opens an opportunity or avoids a conflict. Small course corrections, repeated daily, accumulate exponential power. The metaphor is simple. Think of a large ship at sea. Turning the rudder just 1 degree may seem insignificant at first, but after days of sailing, the final destination will be completely different. The same is true for you. With every conscious choice, you change the direction of your timeline. Don't wait for a flash of light or a sudden epiphany to believe that something is changing. The quantum leap begins in discrete gestures, in the patience to sustain new responses even when the world around you still looks the same. The consistency of these choices is what, silently, builds the moment when reality can no longer resist, and it reconfigures before your eyes. Every time you approach a real leap, the old identity sounds the alarm. Not because it wants to harm you, but because it has been programmed to keep you on familiar ground. It's the survival self whispering, "Go back to what's predictable." The body goes into hyper-alert, the mind fabricates failure scenarios, and old habits resurface with a force that feels disproportionate. In truth, it's proportional to the magnitude of the change being born. Bruce Lipton reminds us that the subconscious operates like a biological autopilot. Old emotional programs trigger familiar chemistry and demand matching behaviors. If, for years, you regulated your system around guilt, control, or vigilance, any attempt at peace will initially be read as a threat. That's why resistance is not proof that it's not working. It's an indicator that your inner field has begun to shift frequency. The strategy is not to fight or convince the mind with speeches. It's to observe without identifying. When you notice the old script emerging, the self-criticism, the rush, the perfectionism, name it honestly. This is the pattern trying to keep me safe. By naming it, you create distance. And in that distance, your breath can lengthen, your shoulders can drop, your heart can find a rhythm that supports different choices. Joe Dispenza emphasizes, coherence is not euphoria. It's emotional stability strong enough to choose the new while still feeling the old. Transforming resistance into an ally requires a small internal ritual. Acknowledge the protective intention of the pattern, thank it for the role it played, and update the instruction. Safety now is in presence. This gesture changes the cellular message. Instead of danger in the new, the body receives continuity in the new. Each time you ride the wave without reacting in the old way, the brain weakens obsolete connections and strengthens pathways compatible with the identity that is emerging. Understand this: the old identity doesn't vanish with one heroic act. It dissolves through lack of repetition. Resistance is just energy asking for direction. When you remain whole for a few minutes longer, when you choose a kinder word, when you pause instead of over-explaining, you signal to the field who is in charge now. And it is in that moment of coherent silence that the leap stabilizes. In physics, we know that systems vibrating at the same frequency enter into resonance, mutually amplifying their signals. When we bring this logic into human experience, we see that intention is not just a thought we wish to see fulfilled. It is a vector, a beam of directed, coherent emotional energy. It's the union of what you think, what you feel, and what you do. What keeps most people stuck in repeated realities is not a lack of desire or visualization, but the silent misalignment between mind, emotion, and action. It's when someone claims they want abundance, yet feels fear when thinking about the future, or says they are ready for a new relationship, yet carries in their body the tension of old, unhealed wounds. Quantum physics, especially in the perspective of researchers like Joe Dispenza, shows that the human electromagnetic field does not respond to isolated words, but to the complete vibrational state we transmit. Think of your intention like a radio signal. If the station you want to hear is at 101.3, but your transmitter is at 98.7, the sound will never come through clearly. And in the inner world, this static is created by scattered thoughts, unresolved emotional memories, and habits that contradict the future you want to live. To change, it's not enough to rewrite the mental narrative. You must train the body to feel, now, the emotional chemistry of the desired future. Bruce Lipton reinforces that cells respond to the environment you create within yourself. When you decide to live as if what you desire were already real, adjusting posture, breathing, and and daily micro-decisions, you begin to emit a coherent pattern. And it is this coherence that creates resonance with a new reality line. A simple exercise: choose a clear goal. Ask yourself, if this were already real, how would I wake up tomorrow? How would I move? What conversations would I have? Then, throughout the day, act in accordance with those answers. Over time, this practice stops being imagination and becomes a stable, energetic signature, and the field, like a high-precision mirror, begins to reflect it back to you. The memories we carry are not just static records stored in the brain. They are chemical and vibrational states that, when reactivated, reproduce in our body the same biochemistry of the original moment. This is why a painful memory can speed up your heartbeat, tighten your breath, and even alter your mood for hours, even if nothing real has happened in the present. When a memory is revisited without reframing, it acts like an anchor that keeps your frequency tied to a timeline you've already outgrown. It's as if every time you think of the past, you are reconnecting the cable that powers an old version of yourself. On the other hand, when a memory is faced head-on and understood from a new perspective, it stops imprisoning you and becomes a portal, a passageway into a wider consciousness. Bruce Lipton reminds us that perception shapes biology. This means that by changing the interpretation we give to an old event, we change not only the mental narrative but also the cellular environment it sustains. Joe Dispenza adds that by reprogramming the body to feel different emotions when revisiting the past, you literally interrupt the neural circuit that was feeding that old identity. An exercise: choose a recurring memory that keeps you tied to feelings of scarcity, fear, or rejection. When you recall it, take a deep breath and ask yourself, what was this experience trying to teach me about myself? Stay focused on that answer until the emotion shifts, even if only subtly. That shift, however small, begins to weaken the vibrational link to the event. Memories don't need to be destroyed to lose their power to imprison. They need to be integrated, like pieces that now fit into the larger story you choose to live. It's at this point that the past stops being a loop and becomes the portal that propels you into a new timeline. Silence is not the absence of sound, it is full presence. In a world running at the speed of notifications, comparisons, and constant stimuli, sitting in stillness is almost an act of spiritual rebellion. But it is in this inner space, free from noise, that the subtlest frequencies can be perceived. Just as the surface of a lake only reflects the sky when it is calm, your mind and your energetic field can only reflect and receive new information when they enter a state of stillness. Bruce Lipton explains that, in this state, the body shifts out of survival mode and activates cellular regeneration. Joe Dispenza adds that it is in silence that we are able to listen, not with our ears, but with our entire nervous system, to the answers the field is already sending us. It's not about meditating for hours in search of a transcendental experience, but about creating conscious pauses throughout the day. 5 minutes of deep breathing, feeling the weight of your body against the floor, can be enough to interrupt a reactive pattern and allow new neural connections to form. Silence is also the space where you separate yourself from the narrative running in your mind. By observing a thought without responding to it, you withdraw energy from it. Little by little, patterns that once felt automatic begin to dissolve. This is how silence becomes a technology, not made of circuits and codes, but of presence and intention. And when you learn to enter this inner space, something shifts. Life stops being a sequence of reactions and becomes a conscious choice in every moment. Silence, then, ceases to be empty and becomes the fertile ground where your new frequency begins to germinate. Letting go is not just a mental decision, it's a biological process. Bruce Lipton explains that every emotion you repeat creates a specific chemistry in the body. Anger, fear, anxiety, and even excessive attachment release neurotransmitters and hormones that literally shape the receptors on your cells. The more you relive the same emotion, the more your body learns to need it in order to feel in its normal state. That's why letting go isn't as simple as stop thinking about it. Your body might be addicted to the chemistry of that relationship, that situation, or even a pain you've carried for years. True detachment begins when you recognize that this emotional signature no longer defines who you are, and and you begin teaching your body a new baseline state. Joe Dispenza describes that by creating new emotional experiences, such as gratitude or presence, you start shutting down old receptors and creating new ones. It's like changing the radio station. The old signals no longer find a place to anchor, and your biology begins to tune into a new frequency. This process isn't instant, but it becomes inevitable when you consistently choose to vibrate differently. Little by little, the absence of the old pattern stops hurting and starts freeing you. The space left behind is not empty. It is open field for new possibilities to organize themselves around you. Letting go then stops being losing something and becomes creating the exact space where your new self can finally exist. Often, when real transformation begins, it's far too quiet to be recognized as a big moment. A quantum leap rarely arrives with fireworks. It reveals itself in small, almost imperceptible changes which, when added together, show that you're no longer vibrating the way you used to. You might notice that certain conversations which once triggered irritation now evoke nothing at all, or that places which once felt comforting now bring a sense of discomfort. People may naturally drift away, and new connections may appear effortlessly. These movements are not random losses or gains. They are the field adjusting to your new vibrational signature. Physically, the body also gives signals. Your breathing shifts, your internal rhythm slows down, your posture aligns naturally. You might feel bursts of intuition, as if you know what will happen before it does, or notice more frequent synchronicities, those encounters and coincidences that seem to respond directly to your thoughts and intentions. The most important thing is not to rush into interpreting these signs. Acknowledge them without turning them into a test to see if it's working. The leap doesn't need external confirmation. It's already happening the moment you sustain the new frequency consistently and without anxiety. When you notice you no longer react as before, when old triggers lose their power and your perception of the world shifts, you have already crossed the invisible line. The rest is simply reality reorganizing itself to reflect what you already are. There comes a moment when something inside you releases, effortlessly, without drama. It's as if a knot holding the old story finally loosened. There is no physical snap, but there is an unmistakable clarity. You are no longer someone trying to change. You are the change. Bruce Lipton reminds us that our cells are shaped by the beliefs we hold. When those beliefs shift, the body's chemistry reorganizes, and with it, your entire energetic field. Greg Braden adds that science and spirituality converge in understanding that the unified field responds to coherence between emotion and thought. This is the point where the leap stops being a concept and becomes your biological reality. A quantum leap is not an endpoint. It's a new starting point, a platform from which your consciousness operates on another level, interacting with possibilities that were previously inaccessible. That's why you shouldn't expect everything to be resolved at once. Instead, sustain the inner state you wish to see expand. Remember, the leap is not a jump into the void. It's walking toward the invisible with the trust that the ground is built beneath each step. You've already begun, and from here on, nothing will be the same.